Radio.com and on TuneIn Radio, also Facebook Live. Check us out. We brought you back a guy who promised us to come into the studio about a year and a half ago. He said we had to wait for this movie to come out. He's a new friend of the show. He's a great guy, an artist, an unbelievable artist. He's here with his crew, his writer to his new movie, The Brooklyn Banker. Our friend, our good friend, Federico Castelluccio's in the house tonight. All right, and he's also accompanied by writer to The Brooklyn Banker,
Michael Rosigliano.
Michael Rosigliano. And two former guests that we had on the show before. Artie Pasquale's in the house. John Bianco's in the house tonight. All right, Artie, welcome.
It's not Pasquale. It's not Pasquale. It's Pasquale.
Pasquale.
Right?
Artie Pasquale. Federico, I just want you to know, his first time here, he came outside. He was a little skeptical about coming in. He's like, do I got to stay long? And I was like, yeah, it's up to you. He was the last one to leave.
He's always the last one to leave. That's nothing.
Because you always feed people here. That's why.
No, we get people drunk and have a good time. That's the
Well,
problem.
he felt when he comes in, he feels a little bit of Italy, you know, with the food.
No,
you offer the food and the wine.
He put GPS in and said, no, don't go there.
It's all about.
You saw the neighborhood, right?
But Federico, as you know him, he is known for being Furio on The Sopranos, and but he's more than that. He's an Italian-American actor, a professional visual artist. He's
unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I mean,
unbelievable.
I couldn't believe.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
He's unbelievable.
Wait, let him say it by yourself. Say unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
If you want to see more, go Federico Castelluccio /paintings.com to check it all out. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Now, Federico, you were born in Naples?
I was, yep.
And
City of Naples, yep.
How long were you there till you moved to?
I was about 3.5. I came here in 1968. Moved right to Paterson, New Jersey, right next door to here, Haledon. Grew up on 21st Ave in Paterson, and went to St. Stephen's, grade school, Passaic County Tech, at the high school right up here in Wayne.
And are you proud of Patterson? I mean,
of course I am.
No, I mean, I'm just because some people they just leave and they don't, That's
No, two big stars came. Him and Uncle Floyd.
No.
I was ready to get there. I was hoping you would say that because I saw the. Wait. I saw the sign. I saw the sign in the park.
That's right.
They just cleaned it, took the sign down and cleaned it. The old sign was filthy dirty.
Right.
Right, they just cleaned it.
And also, he was a boxer. I don't know if you know that. Boxing, Lou Costello boxing. And then they had the pool in Patterson as well. You remember that, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're going way back.
Yeah.
I started now, your painting. Where did you start learning about painting?
I've been painting ever since I can remember. Ever since I was a child.
So you were painting before you became into.
Yeah. I mean, even in Italy, I remember seeing my parents had different prints of Impressionist paintings and Renaissance paintings, but they were prints, but still I grew up looking at those images. They kind of influenced me in my artwork over the years.
Well, when I saw your painting, I don't know if you remember we went to the firehouse and my buddy John was working on the mural and
That's
all.
right, yeah.
Well, we all retired and the mural never got finished. So
Took him 9 years to get the one ladder done.
No, but yes,
it's actually pretty good.
I was amazed when I saw your paintings. They really are unbelievable. They are so just realistic as
I studied formally at the School of Visual Arts in New York City on a full presidential scholarship.
Right, I have that absolutely.
And I studied anatomy for 4 years, and there was a fleeting moment where I said, I was actually thinking of becoming an orthopedic surgeon.
Really?
Yeah, most people don't know that, but I was actually doing drawings from live operations.
Wow.
With a few friends of mine.
Pencil drawing? Pencil sketch?
Actually, yeah, I was drawing right from live operations.
Wow.
And I was saying, since I knew the anatomy so well, and I was watching the operation being done, I'm like, you know what? I could actually. This is intriguing.
Da Vinci
This is intriguing to me.
Yeah, Da Vinci used to do that, right?
Well, Da Vinci used to do
anatomy and
autopsies
humanities.
and used to actually take the heart. I mean, we got most of our greatest illustration of the anatomy from Da Vinci.
Absolutely. Doctors today still study Leonardo da Vinci's drawings on the
Oh
anatomy.
yeah.
But he used to
unbelievable. When I see it, I'm still amazed.
Hold the heart in his hand and draw it.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Now there's something I was a little couldn't wait to ask you. You received the opportunity to create a painting for the late great George Burns. Now
That's true.
Did you meet him?
I actually met him. Yeah, a very interesting story. I I was working at the Patterson News at the time, and I was going to school and kind of getting credits, like after school, you know, doing illustrations for this for the newspaper. And so I was a kid. I was like, what, 17 and a half, 18 years old, high school, and you know, just drawing. And I was in this little cubicle, probably just a little bit bigger than what we're in right now, this sardine can.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We got the fan going. We got to get a little hot. We can open up the fan a little bit.
That's all right. And a reporter came in one day and said she was going to be interviewing George Burns. She was very excited about it. And my boss was sitting in front by the door, and I was like kind of in the corner drawing. I turned around and I said, "Hey, wouldn't it be a great story if a young artist did a portrait and then we presented it to him, you know, and the reporter looked at me, just kind of shook her head and just walked out. And I said, well, I guess that was a bad idea.
Right.
But anyway, she made a few phone calls. She came back. She said, you know, I pitched your idea to the people, you know, at PBS, and they liked it. So you have 1 week to do that painting. Wow. So I actually.
So he didn't pose for you. You just did it off of a portrait.
Oh yeah. No, I actually.
Did you?
That day I went to a bookstore, bought a book, read it overnight, you know, just to get some more details. I knew a lot about him, you know, and I love George Burns and Gracie Allen, and so I went to a place called Jerry Ollinger's in New York City on 14th Street. It's no longer there, but they had photos of every artist and every actor that imaginable.
Okay.
And so I got some really good shots of George Burns, and I created this portrait with sort of a vignette or a montage of different parts of his life. You know, when he was in vaudeville, and then when he had his show on TV with Gracie Allen, and then when he won his first Oscar for Oh God.
Oh, okay.
And so I did this painting, and
probably blew his mind.
A week later, yeah, and he actually, speaking of vaudeville, he had 2 or 3 people there, an entourage from vaudeville.
And this was pencil sketch?
No, this is an oil painting.
Oh, this was an oil painting.
And,
okay.
Yeah.
You got to see that. I never saw.
Whatever happened to that?
Whatever happened to it? Well, I had a standing invitation to his house, and I never went. You know, I was a kid. You know, but what he did was he said to a guy by the name of Frank Goodman, who was the head of PBS PR at the time, and he said, "Hey Frank, we got to take care of the kid." You know, so basically that meant, you know, like, get him some work. And so I had won the scholarship that year, and I went in to study painting and study you know, at the School of Visual Arts, but I was already starting to work professionally because of George Burns.
Wow.
Now, when he said that, was that with or without the cigar?
No, it was always with the cigar, no matter what.
Yeah, always.
But he actually gave me one of his cigars too.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Did you keep it or smoke it?
I still have it somewhere, you know, dried up.
Was it a good quality one?
Nah, they were cheap cigars, man. They were
White Owl.
He was like around the clock.
He only got one
But let
Academy
me ask you
Award.
now.
Wait, he only got
I
one
think
Academy?
only one Academy Award. Yeah.
Like Ernest Borgnine.
Ernest
one
Borgnine.
Academy
Yeah,
Award.
we actually became good friends of Ernest Borgnine from this show.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
When we first started doing this show from the original Wiseguyz show, we became friends with Ernest Borgnine.
That's fantastic.
He gave us
105 films.
He gave us his home phone number in Beverly Hills.
We were hanging out. He sang Mama to him.
I
What
sang
a
Mama.
down-to-earth guy, huh?
Yeah. I didn't know he spoke Italian. And it just shot out in Italian. I was like, so we started talking in Italian. When I started talking Italian, he gave me that look, like with that smile, and I was like,
great.
oh man, it was a priceless moment.
But you asked me what happened with the painting. Posthumously, it sold through Sotheby's, and you know, with his estate. And the only way I found out was a friend of mine who came over to my house and watched me, you know, paint the portrait. He said he was watching TV one day, and they showed on the news that they panned across these objects at Sotheby's, and he said, I saw your painting. It's being sold at Sotheby's. I said, what painting? Because your George Burns painting. So that's how I found out.
Wow. That's some story.
Yeah.
When I read that,
So to all the listeners tonight, if anybody knows where that painting is, contact DDP Radio. We want to find out. We want to make a mission of going to see this painting.
Now, did you sign it on the?
I did. I signed the painting.
Did George Burns sign it?
No, he didn't.
Wow.
He didn't paint it, so why would he sign it?
I mean, it's still would have been
No,
something.
usually the stars used to sign the back. They used to sign the back. They used to sign the back.
They used to sign it back.
Yeah, you would sign the front, you know, whatever it is, and they would sign the back and put it on the wall.
Now, I don't want to get too deep into it. I know we're here for Brooklyn Banker. I just want to ask you, after doing all this art, what got you into acting?
I have no idea. No, I'm just kidding. No, I you know what? Ever since I was a kid, I used to do impressions, you know, different characters and stuff like that. And I was always, anytime I would watch like a show or a television show or something that had kids in it, I would always imagine myself in that role, you know, in the lead role.
What if that was me?
Yeah, I mean, I
could do it better.
You know, yeah, right. I would really always get excited about seeing, you know, other people, even the Little Rascals. I wanted to be part of the Little Rascals, you know, not knowing that they were like 40 years in front of me, you know,
Right.
but you know, before me. And so
One of the best shows, by the way.
Yeah, right.
The simplicity, the you know, the circumstance.
Yeah, but I can see
When,
him
when
being
you
an
did
old
when you did Sopranos, did you take any heat from the Italian American community for being that? Because there are people who have issues with that, and
all the time.
I mean,
all the time. I'm sure these guys can tell you too. I mean, we would, you know, go to an interview. You know, it's
well, Artie,
supposed
they
to be
don't
about
even let
one
them in
thing.
the Italian American.
Yeah, you know, Anti-Defamation League always, you know, they see, the thing is, they watch it and they like it, but they never say they do. You know, and if they really kind of say derogatory things about the show, they've never watched it.
Right.
So
yeah, you know, we used to watch it in the cafe. You've been to the cafe I go to.
Of course,
I'm
yeah.
into it. And we used to sit in a group in the back room and just watch the show when it came on. And I got to be honest with you, I think you were the number 2 character next to Tony Soprano, who was the most favorite character.
most favorite.
Everybody loved your part.
You know what's funny?
I mean,
I got a couple of sub shops, me and Ray Campese, right? And your picture's on the wall, you sign it to me, and blah, blah, blah. And every girl comes in, oh my God, one of the girls who works with me, and she'll show you, she took a picture of it, and it's amazing. Everybody goes, oh my God, he's so, he was the best looking guy. I go,
as soon as we promoted it
was
all the girls from our day, I love him, I love him, I love him.
by the way, I was just with him the other night.
You know what a lot of girls are surprised about?
Oh, take a show.
The fact that
Take a look at this. Load it,
Oh, I
load
see
it
it.
up.
Yeah, I see it.
Now look at it.
Yep.
It's signed. It's you, right?
Yeah.
There's everybody. There's Vinny there. There's this.
Oh, that's so cool.
Big Ange. This
Yeah,
is a Nutley,
that's-
132
wow, where's
Franklin
this?
Avenue. You gotta stop there. You gotta stop on my place. We'll make a sandwich. Put your name on
Hey,
it.
Artie, he's doing a promotion,
Put
Artie.
a sandwich.
Sandwich.
Now listen.
I wanted to just
Ubarina.
I wanted to say
Sandwich.
a lot of young ladies chasing Federico through the Sopranos, and many of them were surprised at the fact that he speaks great English. They all thought that he spoke this, that he was an Italian guy from Italy, and he could hardly speak English.
They actually get disappointed when they meet me. You don't have the accent?
I have something that I've been inspiring artists that's been begging to find out what you think of his work.
Oh.
Come on, Lucky. Let's see what you got.
All right,
Let's see what you
we
got.
only have a few minutes because we want to get to the Brooklyn Banker here. This is
Just 1 second. Here we go.
That's really good, man.
It's still by numbers. Let's see the other one you got.
Actually colored pencil.
What's your name?
What's your name?
Introduce him.
It's on black paper, right?
About that word.
Yeah. It's really good, man. It's really nice.
What's his name?
That's Lucky.
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 Lucky Luciano.
Lucky Luciano.
Yeah.
All right,
All right, we'll do this after. We'll do this after the break. We'll come out and
Let me see this one. Hold on, wait. Let me see this one.
Look at this.
Wow.
Look at this.
This is great, man.
I'm telling you, right?
no,
Wait a minute now.
Artie
Now
can't
relax.
see it. Hey, pick it up a little higher.
Hey, show the viewers. Show the viewers on Facebook.
Show the
There we
viewers this.
go.
Look at
That's
that.
our military right
It's
there.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It is. It's unbelievable.
See, it looks
That's a
it's
surprise
illustrative
view.
to me, yeah.
Wait.
All
What
right,
else you
Lucky.
got? That's unbelievable.
It's really cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk
Hey,
about
Lucky.
it.
Lucky, where you
You
from?
missing any fingers?
He's from Nutley, New Jersey.
Nutley, New Jersey. All right, now,
Hey, Lucky, you
from
missing any
Nutley.
fingers?
Not that I'm
Thank
aware
God
of.
for that. Okay.
Federico, do you speak fluently Napolitan?
Certo, he's in Napolitan. Where you?
Se Napolitano proprio la città.
Il
di
sud
Napoli.
dove domani.
Poi ma, vieni qua.
Devo live solo domani, no problema qua.
Ma, Freddie's asking if Federico is Napolitano. What do you think?
He's a Napolitano.
Ma io non l'ho sentito mai.
Napolitano.
Stamp of approval.
Ma questa è la prima volta che l'ho sentito parlare italiano.
No, ma veramente, tu parli italiano
Io
bene.
parlo italiano, io sono tretesi, antica napolitano.
Adellino,
Guarda la faccia, guardala.
We're going to lose your audience. now.
Okay, yeah, yes. Now, listen.
Questa qui per tu.
Let's go to Italy to show.
Bianco?
No, mezzo e mezzo.
Mezzo e mezzo.
Bring a spoon in. Bring a spoon in, will you?
Chi sta in mezzo
No,
a
not
me?
spoon. No.
Michael Resigliano.
Bravo.
Writer to the Brooklyn Banker. Now, Michael, you want to explain to me what we spoke about earlier, how this whole story got started and where it came from?
Well, my parents, my family rather, my father's side of the family are from Williamsburg, Brooklyn. My father was born in Williamsburg, and my uncle was the priest at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church. and I grew up on Long Island. I didn't grow up in Brooklyn. And my bedtime stories, a lot of my stories, were what my father would tell me about what it was like growing up in Brooklyn, you know, during either the Depression or the war, and no one had any money, and everyone bartered for everything.
And you
they
never
had.
went to sleep after that.
And I never went to sleep after that, right? But that had a lasting impression on my life. And as he got older, he would tell me stories, and they all seemed to change. They seemed to morph into something else, but they stuck with me. So when I had the opportunity to write The Brooklyn Banker, a lot of the characters and a lot of what I thought was Brooklyn from the stories, you know, comes out. And the one thing I'm happy about is the fact that from people who've seen it, or that they feel it is authentic. So from someone who didn't grow up in Brooklyn, that's probably the highest compliment I could get.
Right.
Now you wrote the script yourself, right?
Now,
Yes.
Now you wrote the original script was a different title now.
Lily of the Feast.
Lily
yeah.
of the Feast was a short film, and that's how I met Federico.
Well, that's what I brought it up to you, because you won an award. So I did want to
Well,
mention.
We
yeah.
won about 10, 11 awards.
Well-
yeah, that kind of
Many
kicked
awards.
us into high gear.
Well, you're going full force forward.
Well, I'm going to the short film award in the Long Island International Film Festival. That was the award I found on it.
Right.
But more importantly, right now, I'm curious. So you're talking about you wanted to write and document these stories so you wouldn't forget them, or before you actually created the story.
It was, you know, the story itself, which deals with a guy named Santo Vestucci, who is he's a banker in 1973 Brooklyn, and he has a talent for numbers. And the story itself, I always loved, you know, films from the 70s.
Is this fiction or non-fiction?
This is fiction.
Okay.
This is fiction.
All right.
But I always loved stories like Mean Streets with David Preval, or The Conversation, or Dog Day Afternoon.
That was a great
and the
movie, yeah.
the grittiness
That was a great
of
movie.
70s films I always thought was great. So when I started coming up with the storyline for the Brooklyn Banker, you know, what happens in the Brooklyn Banker couldn't happen today. You know, he has his talent for memorizing numbers. You know,
Right.
today
computers,
anyone can,
yeah,
you know,
right, right,
computer. So back then, to a guy who could keep all these numbers in his head, and knew money and knew how to place money to the mob, that's very valuable.
Exactly.
Organized crime, it was very valuable.
And I'm sure it was around in Brooklyn back in the.
You know, it wasn't, and the Brooklyn Banker's not a mob film. It really
Right.
is just this. It's a film about a guy who wants to walk the straight and narrow. He just wants to come home and have some macaroni at the end of the night.
Right.
And his father-in-law, who's played by
Paul
Paul
Sorvino.
Sorvino, is kind of a knockaround guy.
Right.
Gets him into kind of a jam that he needs to now rely on his wits to get out. And with the help of his uncle, the pastor, which is played by Arthur Nascarella,
Great
you know, he
actor.
tries
Great
to do
actor,
that.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But that's you know, just what the story is. And I'll tell you, it was just an absolutely great experience.
So basically, it's not written on paper. So he had it all in his brain. So if they're gonna kill him, they gotta kill his brain.
No,
they
no.
can't kill him.
Well, the main thing is, at the end of the day, you know, to a guy, there's no ledger, there's no evidence. You know,
Exactly,
you know, to organized crime, to a guy that has a book of business, it's all up here. And if
Yeah,
he
it's
can
funny.
do
There's
that,
a movie similar to that.
Not
and
true.
It's called This Thing of Ours. It was made a long time ago. You remember that movie, This Thing of Ours?
no.
Danny
sorry.
Provenzano and a couple of those guys. It was about a guy who was like a brain guy.
You were in that?
And you remember what I'm talking about? And they were robbing 5 cents out of everybody's bank account, and you would never get caught.
Right.
Tell me you wouldn't, you know.
Oh,
Now,
you mean like he took the interest that no one would
No.
miss?
What this kid was smart. He knew when the shuttle went up and they put something on the satellite, and it would rob 5 cents out of everybody's bank account.
Yeah.
And it was really the kid who started it. He has been on our show many
It's
times.
very different, actually.
The singer from the Bronx Tale. The gentleman with the big nose. What's his name?
Lou Venerian.
Louis. I bust his
Louis
balls.
Venerian.
Louis. Scoops. I call him Scoops.
Now Troy Garrity.
Yeah.
Garrity. Now he looked familiar when I saw him.
When we were looking at the lead
He
actor,
reminded me of the guy who played in 29th Street. Remember the kid that always got lucky in 29th Street? The face, it reminded me, it's not the same guy.
are you talking about the 59th Street Bridge?
No, 29th Street with
Danny Aiello.
Oh, okay.
The
Yeah, it's a
lucky
great
guy.
film.
But was
Yeah,
it that?
great
Doesn't he
film.
remind you of Troy Garrity
Yeah,
a little bit? Because
little
when I
bit.
saw it, that's what the impression I got, but it wasn't.
Troy looks like a young Dustin Hoffman too.
Yeah,
a much
yeah.
taller one.
Like, yeah.
He was, you
Yeah.
know, when we saw him, we really, Federico and I saw, they sent a reel, and he was in Barbershop. Like, and you wouldn't. I had no idea. And then we
just
saw him
disappears in his
another.
roles,
He
this
really,
guy.
he's like
Really
a chameleon. He was
fantastic, man.
fantastic.
Yeah, you could see there was that little clip that he had, that side of him that you could see. It was very eye-catching.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's that kind of guy you want to watch and see what he's up to.
And he was
right?
great. I mean, he's
Who casted him?
Jane Fonda's
did you have
son.
a casting company cast him, or
We
did
cast him.
you cast him?
Yeah, we
You
did.
did all the casting?
Well, no, I mean, of course, I mean, the director always has a final say.
Now, in Lily of the Feast, did you play him?
Yes, I played
Oh,
Santa
okay.
in Lily of the Feast in the short film.
Now, Artie,
Yes.
how was your experience with the movie?
It was great. It was great. You know, not to bring up the Sopranos. There's three of us here. We're in the Sopranos. But one of the things that people were so proud of with the Soprano cat, they always talk about family.
Mhm.
You know, it was a family, this wonderful family. Well, this Brooklyn banker and the people involved, Federico and Michael and John and everybody else, it reminded me so much of that. And not to be too corny about it, but there's a great family, everybody gets along. I'm sure behind closed doors, Michael and Federico had to deal with different stuff. But it's a wonderful experience. It was a wonderful experience. And I think that's what's really making this thing go. And great friendships have developed from this, as was with the Sopranos. So it's not like, most of the time you're in a movie, you do your thing, you meet these people, and you go, and maybe you'll see them again. But there's a camaraderie here that's really special, and I think it's enhanced the movie to be special.
Well, you touched on something
And
very...
hopefully everybody out
Well,
there that's listening.
we're not done. We're going to go to break. We're going to come back and finish, and then,
Right.
we're going to get it all out. This is the Wiseguyz Show with Federico Castelluccio, Artie Pasquale, John Bianco, and writer to the Brooklyn banker, Michael Resigliano.
Yeah.
We'll be back after these messages. This is PDD Radio, and tune in. The Wiseguyz Show, back after these messages.